This is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 137, let's talk about the Synopsys and Ansys merger. Howdy there, I'm Eric Miller, your co-host for this podcast and one of the three owners here at PADT. Well, it took a while, but the merger between Ansys and Synopsys closed on Thursday, July 17th, 2025. That was yesterday. So for this week, instead of our normal interview, I'm going to talk a bit about this historic transaction that has created a much larger company. Then we will do our normal news and events. So let's just go ahead and get going there. And kind of look back at my own history with Ansys a little bit to get started with. So almost 39 years ago to the day, it was July 15th that I started at a company called Garrett Turbine Engine Company. I was hired in with a group of other young engineers who were tasked with learning the software tool called Ansys from a company called Swanson Analysis Services. I logged onto a VAX computer and started playing around. And the experienced engineers who were, 3 to 5 years older than us helped us out and showed us the ropes. Back then, Ansys was such a small company with so few customers. And needless to say, though, I fell in love with the technology and with many others made a career out of my relationship with Ansys. So then 9 years later, after I started with Ansys, using Ansys, we started PADT and soon became a sub-distributor and then a distributor. So over the decades, if you've been around for a while, you know that Ansys has acquired new tools and added things and added capabilities through development. And the code just got better and better, as well as the computers they run on. And the size of the company and its revenue grew along. So I looked it up. They went public in 1996, and they reported $47 million in revenue that year. Now, I'm going to start talking in 2024 dollars. So we're going to take inflation out of this. So in 2024 dollars, that's $96 million. So went public, 1996, $96 million. In 2000, $138 million. 2024, $258 million. 2010, $851 million. 2015, $1.3 billion. 2020, $2 billion. And then in 2024, their last full year as an independent company, they hit $2.54 billion in revenue. So that's some significant growth from $47 million to $2.54 billion. That's 54 times growth over 28 years of being publicly traded. Of course, the company's been around for over 50 years. So pretty impressive, right? It's been a long road there. But let's talk about the deal. The official press release basically stated a couple of things. But the one thing you'll notice in everything that came out is this phrase we're going to see a lot: from silicon to systems. So they're really talking about is that Synopsys is a company that's used to design and simulate silicon chips, right? And packages and 3D packages and all the new complexities that are coming in. It's just an industry that is growing rapidly with AI and GPUs and other things and 3D packages and all sorts of changes in the semiconductor space. It's growing a lot, right? So they're focused on that. And then with Ansys, they bring in everything from that silicon to systems. So all of our component level stuff, all of our subsystems, all those things, those multi-physics simulation things come along with it. So they talk a lot about that in all the press that's out there. The three things they stressed is this combines leaders in what's called silicon design and intellectual property, and I'll talk about that later, and then simulation analysis for multi-physics to really help customers to rapidly innovate AI-powered products. So with AI coming, the need for more chips, with AI being used to design the chips, now's the time to strike. So they think that the total addressable market for their new software, collection of software, is going to be $31 billion a year. So remember, that's a lot, $31 billion. Let's pay attention to that and see if it happens. The other thing that they kept on talking about over and over again is they fast-tracked the integration of Ansys multi-physics technology into the Synopsys tool set. So they expect to have that done by the first half of 2026. So that's pretty aggressive, but I think they can do it. And it'll be interesting to see what they put in there and how they put it in there. So pretty cool stuff. We'll learn a little bit later. Synopsys has acquired a lot of companies. They know what they're doing here. So that's pretty much it. All the different press releases, all the different things, all the stories out there, they're pretty much the same thing. So I did a little bit of reading to find out more. The deal started in 2017, according to a couple sources, when the two companies agreed to partner. And I remember talking about that I think on the podcast about that partnership. And the goal was to combine the Ansys power integrity tools, the Apache tool, with and the sign-off tool that came with the Apache acquisition to Ansys, with the Synopsys chip design tools. And that's kind of how they started their relationship. And then as they worked together, the Synopsys team saw the value of having the full multi-physics capability for these complex chips and packages their customers were designing. And so that's how they decided, we're gonna keep doing the multi-physics stuff, but we're gonna integrate it also into the chip side to get that to grow as well. So the deal itself is worth $35 billion. It was announced, if you remember, back in January of 2024, and it took 18 months to clear a bunch of hurdles. It took that long because it had to go through the US, the EU, and the UK regulators, and then China. So there were a couple companies that had overlap, right? In the optics space, there's really only two options out there. One of them was acquired by Synopsys, and one of them was acquired by Ansys. So the Synopsys team had to sell those technologies to a company called Keysight Technologies. This is one of their competitors. And the same thing happened with PowerArtist on the Ansys side. That was a very popular tool, and that was sold also to Keysight. So that's how they got away from the taking away competitors, knocking out competitors with each other. But the deal got caught up in China. So once they agreed to those things, the other countries were fine with it. But they got caught up in the U.S.-China trade issues, right? That's just a lot going on right now. So there's a couple of really good stories out there. And I recommend you read the Fortune story about the merger. It's the one that goes into how this deal happened the most. The CEO just basically got on a plane and he went and he talked until he convinced the regulators in China that this deal was a good idea for everybody. And he got their approval. And just a few days later, they announced the deal. So that was really good. So back in May of 2024, we can take a look at the Ansys shareholders approving the deal to kind of understand the structure of the deal. So they Synopsys offered $197 in cash and 0.345 shares of Synopsys stock for each Ansys share. So that's the equivalent of $390.19 per share is what they offered to buy it at. And that valued, with the number of outstanding shares, Ansys at $35 billion. So pretty impressive that something John Swanson started in his house sold for $35 billion. I'm kind of proud of everybody that was involved in that, and the very small part we played in it. So when this is all done, Ansys shareholders will end up with about 16.6% ownership, assuming they don't sell it immediately. So how are they going to pay for this? It's a $19 billion cash transaction. The part where they're paying that $197 per share is $19 billion. So they did a note worth $10 billion. So they basically, sold bonds, I guess is what you'd call it, for $10 billion. And then they did a $4.3 billion in a long-term loan credit agreement that they have. And then they also had $4.7 billion with cash on hand. So that's how they did it. And they predict that they're going to be able to pay down that debt to a reasonable level. Large corporations like this keep debt on the books for a reason, but they'll get it to an acceptable level within 2 years, they feel, with the revenue they're going to be getting. And one of the reasons why they have that revenue and why the stock market was positive about it and Ansys was positive about it is Synopsys was able to grow their business to $6.1 billion in 2024. Now, their fiscal year is not the calendar year. I still haven't quite figured it out. It's kind of a weird fiscal year, but in their fiscal 2024 year, they did $6.1 billion. That was a 15% increase over 2023. So they're growing like gangbusters, even at that huge size of $6 billion. So compare the two. 2024, Ansys did 2.5, Synopsys did 6.1. So together, 8.6, 9, we'll see what the fiscal 2025 looks like. So before we move on, we should probably actually take a look at Synopsys as a company, right? We really haven't talked about that much here on the podcast. So they're the number one provider of electronic design automation software, what they call EDA, electronic design automation. And their competitors are Cadence, and then what used to be Mentor Graphics, but was acquired by Siemens. So Siemens bought Mentor Graphics and pulled them in, right? They're number 2 in something called Silicon IP, and I had to look that up. So this is the intellectual property. Silicon IP is the design of the reusable blocks, the Lego blocks that they build chips out of, right? They don't draw every transistor. They put a bunch of transistors together to do something, and then they have software that puts all those transistors together. And the tools they use to do that is where they're number 2. And kind of interesting, if you go to their website where they list what they're number 1 and number 2 in, they now have number 1 in multiphysics because, yeah, they are with the acquisition. So they got that up pretty fast. They're based in Sunnyvale, and they have offices around the world like everybody else, but they're out of Silicon Valley. It started in 1986, the year I graduated from college. Wow, I never thought about that. As a company called Optimal Solutions in North Carolina. They're focused on this EDA market, right? They moved about a year later to the Bay Area where their customers were and called the company Synopsys. Now, if you don't know, Ansys doesn't stand for anything. A lot of people will say, well, it's an analysis system. And John Swanson will say, no, it's just Ansys. It doesn't stand for anything. I don't know. But Synopsys does stand for something. It stands for Synthesis and Optimization Systems. Synthesis and Optimization Systems. So at least we went from one sys to another sys, right? And then, like Ansys, they grew through development and acquisition. They just kept on adding capabilities. In fact, they acquired, according to one source, 72 companies over the years. They've been around. And they acquired 13 companies in the last 5 years. So they've been quite a role. But that doesn't mean they haven't spun some stuff off, too. They sold their software integrity group in 2024 for $2.1 billion, a little bit of cash to help them with this deal. Yeah, that's enough for now. You can go out there and use your favorite search tool or AI tool to ask questions of what you want to know. But this is a very successful, good company. I know people that used to work at Ansys that work there. Moved there a couple of years ago. They all seem to like it. The customers like them. They're growing. It's all positive from what we can tell. I think that's enough for now. The bottom line is that this company, they dominate the IC chip space, just like Ansys dominates the multiphysics space. They're going to be integrating Ansys into their tools to grow even more in that IC chip world, but also have the cash and the wherewithal to grow the Ansys customer base, the more diverse Ansys customer base. So I think that phrase they're throwing around of silicon to systems is pretty damn good. I like it. So one thing you may be asking as a user out there is what is going to change. Right now, nothing. Business as usual. Whoever you purchase from, or whoever you get your support from, that's, if it's PADT or it's Ansys Direct or it's another channel partner, that doesn't change. Just keep calling them, keep working with them. Right now, there's no product changes announced. And other than the very high levels where the CEO, Ajay, is moving from the Ansys CEO position to the board of directors of the new company or the combined companies, there's not a lot of changes that we've heard of either. So, we'll see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be some, they always start with no change, and then both these companies know how to do mergers. So they'll start with no change, and they'll figure out where there's redundancies and where they need people around and where they can leverage what each company has. So we'll see what happens. And when we do, learn something that's what we can share, we'll share it with you all. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, big day. Kind of excited to see this change. Okay, let's do our commercial. So for our commercial, I want to talk about training with PADT. We still deliver a noticeable amount of custom training. Yeah, you can use the Ansys online training, and we highly recommend you always start there. But more and more of our customers are finding custom training led by the very people you hear from on this podcast, helping people learn how to use the tool in kind of a real world situation. We do it over Microsoft Teams or WebEx if you prefer, or we can come visit you, and you get the benefit of, or you can come to our offices if you're here or in Denver, but you get the benefit of interacting with a live instructor. Our customers feel they learn more, get up to speed faster, and avoid issues and mistakes because of the interaction in the class. So reach out today to swsupport@padtinc.com or give us a call at 480-813-4884. It's an investment you won't regret. We've never had anybody say they felt it was a mistake. They've always come back for more custom training. All right. So after the commercial, we usually talk about Ansys stock. Well, sadly, I kind of got a little misty-eyed. I went to Yahoo Finance, I think is what I use, and I typed it in, and it's done. There's no prices. It's finished. It's gone. ANSS is no more. It finished the day on July 16th, the day before the announcement, at 388.82. You'll see there's a bit of a sell-off at the last minutes when everybody found out the deal was going to happen, which I don't understand because it was still priced less than the strike price, but oh well, or the buying price. But I don't understand the stock market. They've had a 5% drop over the past 5 trading days. So yeah, that's where it ended up, 388. Asking price is $3.90. That's pretty dang close, $2 or less than $2, $1.20, right? So good to see. Just for the record, the highest price ever that Ansys stock saw was on December 27th, 2021 at $411. So we're going to start looking at Synopsys stock. The symbol is SNPS, and it's also on the NASDAQ. It finished the week the day after the acquisition at 584.76. That's a 21% increase year to date. The S&P 500 gained 6.4. So quite a bit better than the S&P 500 did year to date. Synopsys did peak in the last couple of days on July 5th, actually, at 621. So people were speculating on when the deal would happen, so the price went up. So it'll vacillate a little bit as they shake out the cobwebs and stuff, but stay tuned. We'll start watching that price and see how it does. Ansys news-wise, well, Ansys was acquired by Synopsys. That's about all there is to talk about. There's a couple of press releases about some working with some customers, but nothing really worth mentioning. So hopefully we'll start seeing some news come out soon and on the Ansys website. By the way, the Ansys website is still there. The only change is the logo now says Ansys, a part of Synopsys. So that's all still there, ansys.com. Let's look at the Ansys blog, though. There's some good stuff there. There's been a large amount of good content coming out around system-level simulation on the blog. Things like digital thread and simulation data project management, data management, and a new trend, digital engineering. So I recommend that you read an article called Level Up, Industrial Processes with Digital Engineering. Even if you don't do industrial machinery, it's a good look at what the heck is this digital engineering thing and how can it apply to my job. Another one that I recommend is Simulation at the Speed of Relevance. It's next-gen technology driving the CFD energy industry. It's a great article talking about recent advantages in compute that are driving CFD. My third pick is from an article called From Design to Approval, Overcoming Challenges in Medical Device Development with Ansys Optics. So even if you're not doing Ansys Optics, if you're in the medical device space, or even if you work in any space where you can use simulation to certify your product, it's a pretty useful article. And how in silico testing, on the computer testing, can be a game changer. So it's been a couple months since we've done a podcast. We've been traveling and doing some other things, so we've missed a month in there. But since our last podcast, which was 2 months ago, we put out quite a few articles. So I'll just list them and mention them slightly. I wrote something called A Quick Look at the Ansys Developer Portal. So if you're looking to do Ansys customization or integration, check out the developer portal. Use that article to get yourself situated. Our optics team I think it was Cynthia, did an article on how to create an Ansys Speos black box. If you're an optics person, you know what that means. It wasn't what I thought it meant. It's actually kind of cool. You should check it out even if you're not an optics person. What it allows you to do is basically create a box that has the optical characteristics of everything inside the box. So when you share your geometry to somebody else that's going to use it in their system, you're not giving away your secret sauce and what your lenses look like or your mirrors look like. We also did an article called Metal 3D Printing Simulation. It's basically talking about a project we did with Visser Precision, and we did a case study with them where we used the Ansys additive tools to help them reduce the scrap on their 3D metal printing. Then Cynthia was back with another black box article called Stray Light Capabilities with an Ansys Speos black box. And then Alex updated his very popular UserMat UPF routine, where he talks about how to do a custom material again in Windows on Ansys Mechanical. And this is a much more sophisticated plasticity model. So it's kind of cool stuff. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to go over here and open up my event calendar on the PADT website, which you can do as well. You can just go to the PADT website, pdtinc.com, and go to About Us and Events, and you'll see them. Ansys related, we are promoting a bunch of Ansys webinars, as you probably know if you've been listening. The next one up is on July 24th, Ansys Virtual Workshop on Mastering EMC Simulation for Electronics Design. We are also going to be so if you are in Salt Lake or in Utah, we're going to be up there July 29th. Hopefully this will come out before that. And not July 29th, when is it? We're going to be on the 23rd. This may come out after that, but if it gets out before the 23rd and you're in Salt Lake, please come to our truck tour. We're showing off some Stratasys equipment. I will be down in Tucson July 31st, along with a couple of our Ansys salespeople at the AZ Tech Council Q3 VIP Tech Mixer. So if you're in Tucson, come on and say hello. That's going to actually be at the airport. I'm kind of excited. We're going to be, the Airport Authority is letting us use their facility for that meeting. Also of interest to those of you who are out there is probably we're going to be at SmallSat August 10th through the 13th, and that's in Utah as well. And then we're going to be at the AZ Bio Awards October 15th, the Southern Arizona Tech Business Expo, which is also the 15th. And it's official. It's time to start talking about PADT's annual open house, Nerdtoberfest. It's going to be at October 21st this year. So look for a save the date to go out if you're on our email list. Nerdtoberfest is our huge open house that we do every year. So that's pretty much for PADT events and webinars and things. So I want to thank you. We'll see how things go with this brave new world. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a real positive thing. If you want to keep up to date, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at www.padtinc.com/opt-in. Please do spread the word about the podcast. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting tool. Give us a comment, give us a shout out. All those things help other people find us. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys podcast, episode 137. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with, what used to be Ansys Inc. and is now Synopsys. And the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.padtinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@padtinc.com. See you next time.